demonstration in Photopea this way. So the first thing that you're going to do in Photopea is you are going to start with a new file, so file new, and you'll type in the specs for that project. First thing, name your file, so we'll call this P number, whatever your class period is, underscore your name, underscore noun mashup or mashup or something like that. And then you want to change your pixels to inches, so you're looking at units as inches. And then the file size for this project is going to be either 11 by 8.5 or 10 by 10. So I'm going to go ahead and go with a 11-inch document wide. We're going to go horizontal by 8.5. And we want the DPI to be 300 DPI. And that is what you get to begin with. The next thing that you're going to do is you are going to bring in your place image. So I'm going to go to my folder right here. I have a folder for on my desktop. That's my project folder for this project. So I'm going to go to File, Open in Place, click the picture of the desert, and click Open, and the photo will come in there. Once it's inside, I'm going to use the transformation tools to resize it to the size that I want for my canvas. So for here, the transformation tools show as a bounding box around it with these little squares. If for some reason that the transformation tools are not activated, you can reactivate them using this button up here called Transformation Controls up in the control box. You can turn it on and off that way, or you can activate it with the keyboard shortcut. The keyboard shortcut is Control, Option, or Alt-T, and it will reactivate your transformation controls, free transform mode. From here, I'm going to hold down Shift to constrain my proportions, and I'm going to drag open my image to fill my entire canvas. This is my place. It's the desert. Once I'm happy with my size, I'm going to click the check mark to commit to this, and that is set. Okay. I'm going to move over to another file that I had already had going. You're going to do the same thing to bring in the images of your person and your thing, your object. I'm going over to this file where I had already had some of these set up. This one is set up as a square. So there's the image of the desert. The next thing I did was I brought in my person. This is Jamie Fraser. Then I brought in my thing, which is the panda. And later, I'm going to bring in this bamboo. And I put them in approximately the right positions that I wanted them to be in because I wanted to create some depth. So the panda's a little bit smaller, it's farther back, and he's a little bit bigger because he's in the foreground. But you can see that these are all just the raw images. They have the original backgrounds on each of them, but I have them in my new file on this canvas, kind of in the general positions that I want them to be in. If they're not in the correct position, you can use the Move tool and move them around, okay? You have to be on the layer you want to move with the Move tool to move it around. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this one off for now, is I need to add layer masks. Because I need to mask the subjects, the panda and or the person, off of their backgrounds. So I'm going to start with the person, Jamie, and I'm going to make a selection of him, and then I'll put a layer mask on him. For him, I decided I'm going to use the quick selection tool to try and detect the edges. The quick selection acts like a brush. You can see that there is a circle on his head. If I use the brackets, I can increase the size of the brush for the quick selection tool, so I can grab more or less to try and detect the edges. So I'm going to be on the layer of Jamie Fraser. I'm going to use my quick selection tool to try and detect the edges, and I'm going to click once. For the quick selection tool, you do not need to hold down Shift. It acts like a brush. You can just keep adding to the selection by clicking more. So I'm clicking more, and it selected all of that, which was nice. It might have a hard time with this cuff, so I think I'll go in there with a different selection tool. Select it a little bit more. I think I might need, okay, so when I clicked that, it took everything off the background. So I think from here, I need to combine and use a different selection tool to grab the rest of the stuff that I want. So right now I'm going to switch over to the lasso tool. And with the lasso tool, I can add to my selection or delete from my selection using shortcuts. Holding down Shift, I can add to my selection. Holding down Option or Alt, I can take away or subtract from my selection. So I want to add in this stuff right here. I want to add in the boot. I want to take away this shadow. So I'm going to be on that tool, the lasso, and I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to add this. So I'm clicking down on my mouse and just drawing with my free hand and my mouse what I want to select. And getting all of that, looping around it to add it into my selection. I need to loop around this to make sure that I have this cuff into that selection. And then I need to get rid of this stuff down here. Looks like I need to add this in here. So I'm holding down Shift and I'll add that in. Got a little bit too much, so I'll hold down Option and loop around this to get rid of it. I've got too much here, so I'll hold down Option and delete these pixels. Now I want to get rid of this shadow in between the boots, and I want to get rid of this shadow, so I'm going to hold down Option, and with the mouse clicked, I'm just going to loop around the stuff I don't want in my selection, and it removes it. I'll do the same thing over here. Get rid of all that. Get rid of this. I'm holding down Option that whole time. And I need to add this part top of the boot, so I'll hold down Shift and add that part of the boot back in. Maybe take off this part, holding down Option. So I've got my two hands working right now. One hand is on my Shift or my Option key to add or subtract from my selection, and the other hand is on my mouse. I'm going to scroll up here because I think I need to add in some of this part of his kilt. So I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to loop around some of these items right here to get them in there. Just zoom out. And I'm pretty happy with that selection of him. I can see that that's what I want to be revealed, and I want everything else to be hidden. I want to hide the background. So now I'm going to add the layer mask to it. So what I want to do for the layer mask is I'll go right down here to the bottom of my layers panel, and I will click the layer mask icon. If you hover over it, it says add a raster mask. That's the layer mask. You click on it once and it adds the mask. The mask is black and white. Everything that is black is hidden. Everything that is white is revealed. Now, if I zoom in real close here, I can see that I've left off some of these pixels at the edge. So I want to add those back in. I can continue to adjust my layer mask by painting with black or white right on the layer mask to add those things back in. So to do that, I'll go over to my paintbrush in my tool panel, click on my paintbrush, and I want my foreground and my background to be defaulted, so I'll to black and white. So I'll click D on my keyboard, and the default is the foreground color is white, the background color is black. If I click X on my keyboard, I can toggle those back and forth really easily, or I can click this button to toggle them back and forth. And I'm going to want to go back and forth a little bit if I'm editing my layer masks between black and white paint, because I want to paint a little bit to reveal or paint a little bit to hide. So I'm going to use the paintbrush, and I'm going to use a relatively small diameter for my brush. And right here, I want to reveal this. So I want to be on the white color. I just click once. Click a couple times, and I can paint back in the edge of this tartan. And what I'm doing is I'm on the layer of the layer mask painting with white to reveal the stuff that I don't want to be hidden. So I can go around the edge and fix those things a little bit. I can soften that if I want to by changing the brush properties to make it a little bit more of a softer selection. And if I wanted to take some of these pixels out, I could paint with black on that layer mask. You can also double click on the layer to activate the properties panel. In the properties panel, you can adjust the edge of the mask by feathering it slightly, and it will soften the edges slightly. If you went too far, it's going to blow out the image entirely. It's softening the edges a lot. You don't want to do that. So you can just feather very, very, very subtly to soften the edges between your black and your white selections in your layer mask. If I wanted to see the original image and recover the original image, I could simply turn off the layer mask. You can hold down Shift and click on the layer mask itself, and it will turn off the layer mask. You get this red X through it, and suddenly you can see that the full image is there. Hold down Shift and click again on the thumbnail, and it will turn it back on. If I wanted to see what the layer mask actually looks like, I can click Option and click on it. That's what my layer mask actually looks like. Remember, everything that's black is hidden, everything that's white is revealed. I'm going to go through the same process for the panda and for the bamboo. Let's imagine that I have done that, and I've masked my panda. There's my layer mask for the panda, and there's my layer mask for the bamboo. And once I've done those, the next thing I'm going to do is add some adjustments to them. Adjustment layers are down here. It looks like the black and white circle, and you can add an adjustment layer to any layer to adjust things like brightness, hue, color. You can add a photo filter. This photo was taken in a studio, so it's got very cold lighting compared to the warm lighting of the desert. So if I wanted it to feel a little bit more integrated, I would add an adjustment layer to maybe change the brightness. So if I wanted to adjust the brightness of Jamie, I would be on this layer and I would add an adjustment for brightness. And you can see that my adjustment layer pops right up there, and I can adjust it. But the thing here is that it's affecting everything underneath, including my background. So if I want that adjustment to only affect the layer directly below it, I have to clip it. And by clipping it, I have to click Option or Alt and click on the layer, and I'll get this clip. That means that that brightness is only directly affecting the layer below it. So now if I turn it on and off, you can see it's affecting Jamie and not the background of the desert. If it's not clipped, then it affects everything, and I want it to be clipped. So I've got the brightness a little bit too much, so that's better. He's a little bit brighter. But I think I also want to add a photo filter to warm him up a little bit. So I'll add another adjustment. Click on this layer. That's the layer I want to add the adjustment to. Click on the adjustment. And I'm going to go to photo filter and choose a warming photo filter to warm him up. Once again, that adjustment is affecting everything underneath, and I don't want it to affect the desert. I only want it to affect the photo of Jamie. So I'm going to click on Option or Alt, click on the adjustment, and now it's only affecting the layer directly below it. If I turn it off, you can see he's brighter and colder there. If I turn it on, he's warmer. The density of that adjustment layer is a little bit too much, so I'm going to dial it down a little bit right here. And again, if I wanted to activate the properties panel, I would double click on the layer, double click on the layer mask to get to the property panel for each of those items. Let's turn these off so you can see again what I did. So there's the mask, without the mask, with the mask. Then I added a brightness and contrast adjustment layer to brighten him up. It's clipped, so it's only affecting him. Then I added a photo filter that's warming him up, so it makes him look like he's actually in the desert scene. You're going to want to do this process for each of the photos that you bring in. You'll mask them, and you'll think about adjustments, you'll think about color overall as you are composing and compositing your image. And eventually, we're going to get to here, where we've added shadows and text. All right, hope this is helpful. Let me know if you have questions.